Well, it's 2 weeks later. Once again, we're all wearing the exact same clothing choices. We're back on Full Moon Fridays to talk Trancers 3. Now, if you watched last week's episode, you knew we were not very keen on Trancers 2. Very, very disappointing film after 1.5, which we all enjoyed quite a bit. So the question is, will it rebound? Was there a creative an injection of creative juices into Full Moon for Trancers 3? Will we get back on track? Bort, I'll ask you, how are you feeling going into Trancers 3?
It was rough. It was rough pressing play on this movie.
Did you watch them back to back? Because that's what I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Steve, your thoughts going into Trancers 3 before you hit that play button?
I was not excited whatsoever. I do think it's weird that where did you guys watch this at? Because I couldn't find this on Tubi.
I
Like,
watched on your YouTube link that you sent.
All
I
right,
watched
yeah.
it this morning.
This seems to be like the only Trancers movie that's not on Tubi, and I'm wondering if we should have taken that as a sign.
Yeah.
No, I
do
I
have the
had no
box
interest in
set.
this.
I couldn't find it, but I have the box set of Trancers, and I distinctly I remember because I was a Full Moon fan in the 90s and I bought all this shit. That's why. I've never gotten rid of it. I do remember more things about 3 than I did 2 when I watched it. So that was something. But Trancers 3, Death Lives, Steve, walk us through this cinematic masterpiece.
So it's like another year later, and Jack Death's at the end, the actual like final shot of Trancers 2 is Jack Death and Helen Hunt have moved out of Hap's mansion and they have bought a house together, and they're going to live happily ever after in this nice house that they have. Well, a year later, it turns out they're getting divorced. Jack Death has become a private detective, and it's not going well. Like, probably the highlight of this movie is the ridiculous like commercial that he tries to shoot where he's like, yeah, I've got a special now. If you got a cheating spouse, give me a call, I'll give you a discount. And in front of the camera you see people like moving cue cards. Like, he made this incredibly like low budget commercial. I thought that was funny.
That's an interesting thing. Well. The detective agency is an interesting thing because in 1.5, Helen Hunt, they established he's already had the detective agency, but Helen Hunt's like, you're not doing anything with it. You got to provide. Let's do something. And in 2, they don't even mention the detective agency, right? Like, they don't mention he's doing anything with that. But in 3,
maybe 1.5 is actually 2.5, and they just fucked up the continuity.
Maybe because then in 3 he has the detective agency, but it's causing problems. Like, Helen Hunt's kind of pissed off about the whole thing. So again, let me see who wrote this.
1.5 wasn't released either, right? So
yeah,
that's true.
You could have just disregarded the whole thing.
From the canon, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so it's not going well. So Jack Death is a private detective. He's catching cheating spouses. Like, he's no longer happy with his life outside of Helen Hunt. Like, he has a kind of a monologue where he's like, "This is so much lamer compared to singeing Trancers." But he calls Helen Hunt, and they're getting divorced. And he's like, "Give me one more chance. Like, let me take you to dinner. Like, one time, let me like make this final sales pitch to you on why we should stay together." And Helen Hunt is like, "Fine, 8 o'clock at this restaurant. Do not be late." Well, unfortunately, like immediately after this phone call, this giant fish monster comes back in time from.
This felt like a turn for the series.
Yeah, it's so fucking weird. Giant fish monster. Like, I don't even know how to describe this guy. Like, maybe if you're familiar with the character of Despero from DC, maybe that helps you. It's just this big hulking dude with like just like almost like a skinless face, and he's got like a mohawk, but it's like he has like
made of metal or something.
Yeah, but he's got like fish characteristics. So like the mohawk is like a fish fin. It's bizarre, and this is so out of place in this movie. Anyways, this giant fish monster comes back through a time machine and goes and finds Jack Death and hauls him back to the future. And so Jack Death has missed his dinner date with Helen Hunt. And so he gets back to the future and he finds out that in the future, like millions of Trancers just showed up all at once and basically took over the world. It's very Terminator-esque, where like the council is dead. There's like this underground resistance now trying to fight off the Trancers, and his wife Alice is there, still in the body of the little girl that she kidnapped from the past many years ago, and so they tell Jack Death, like, hey, like the Trancers are overwhelming us. We're going to lose this war. We're going to send you back in time again, but we're going to send you back in time, not to 1992 where you just were, but to 2005. And we're sending you back to 2005 because somehow, some way, Lena found evidence of where the first Trancers came from, and so we want you to go back and just stop Trancers at their source, like find out what created the original Trancers and end them. And so Jack Death gets sent back in time to 2005. He goes and finds Lena, and well, let me back up a bit. There's a scene with a bar fight, and it turns out there's these like military dudes, and they are talking about like all of these like steroid injections they've been getting, and like a rival group of military dudes show up, and one guy is like, I'm just going to go pick a fight with these guys, and the other guy's like, okay, that's fine, but just break their bones, don't kill them. Casual conversation for a bar fight. And so this big dude like trances out. So like this group of military people are trancers, and so he trances out. He ends up killing one of the people he was fighting, and he refuses to like detrance. Like you can kind of control the trancing in this group of people, and so ultimately other military people have to come up and just like kill him because he's lost control of his trancing abilities. That causes a girl. I think her name is RJ. She's a military woman who has started getting like the transfer treatment, but it's not complete yet. But she abandoned ship. She's like, no, I don't want to turn into like a killer zombie like that dude was. I'm out. So she flees, and it's somehow like behind the scenes winds up running to Helen Hunt, who is now a reporter, and it's like, yeah, hey, transfer program exists, and so that's how Helen Hunt learns all this secret knowledge. So now 2005, Jack Death goes to Helen Hunt, and Helen Hunt's like, yep, I have a contact that told me about this transfer program going on with the military. RJ is my contact. RJ has been living with me this whole time, and so Jack Death connects with RJ, and now they're going to team up. But Jack Death is like, 13 years ago, I didn't just abandon you. Like I was going to, meet you for this dinner we had planned, and then, I got pulled back to the future. And Helen Hunt's like, don't care. It happened. Like we're past that now.
Well, the door
And
answers, and there's a little girl there, and it was like Helen
Yeah.
Hunt's daughter. So you're like, oh, okay.
That better be Jack Death's kid, or now the plot makes even less sense.
They never
So
address
anyways,
that, do they? They
never
never
address
say
it,
who
no.
that kid is. Like, is Helen Hunt with some other dude? She didn't say, "Hey, this
Yes.
is your daughter." She didn't say
Well,
anything.
her last name is now like Forrester,
Yeah.
so like she's married. So I assume that's her daughter. It better be Jack Death's daughter, or he has now ended his bloodline and shouldn't exist anymore. Anyways, so Jack Death is telling Helen Hunt, like, like, it's not my fault. I wanted to meet you at this dinner. I got pulled to the future, and Helen Hunt's like, I don't care. Like that was 13 years ago for me. I've moved on. And Jack Death is like, well, after I complete this mission, I could go back to 1992 and fix things between us. And she's like, no, don't do that.
What
I'm
a
happy with my life.
Again, that's another douchey thing. Like he sees she's got a daughter right now, and it's like, well, if I did that, the daughter ceases to exist, and it just comes across as an asshole. I
can kind of understand it. Like for her, it was 13 years ago. For him, it was like 13 minutes. Like he is still deeply in love with Helen Hunt.
Sure.
So I get that. Like that part didn't bother me.
It feels like an asshole thing to do, though, after you've been interacting with her kid, and be like, actually, I'm going to make sure your kid never exists by going back and fixing this against your will.
Like I said, that better be his kid, or he has been wiped out of existence. So maybe going back to 1992, the girl would grow up with a father. who fucking knows? This time travel shit makes no sense. Um,
Also, Helen Hunt is in like 3 scenes in this entire
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
She
Yeah.
was
that's what I was gonna do.
she was like cast or on Mad About You at this point, so
Yeah,
she did not need to come back,
Yeah.
but she did.
yeah. She came back to tie up her story.
Yeah.
So Jack Death is like, I can go back to 1992. I can fix things between us. And Helen Hunt is like, no, don't do that. I'm happy with the life I have now. And Jack Death says, okay, he tries to kiss her, and she was like, stop. That was a decade ago
Yep.
for me. And Jack Death respects her wishes. He's not pursuing her anymore. He's not going to time travel back to 1992 to get back with her. Uh, he accepts that she is now happy with her life, and that is the last time we apparently will ever see Helen Hunt in the series. So that is how their relationship ends. Jack time travel messed with their relationship. Jack Death wants to go back in time to fix it, and Helen Hunt says no. Helen Hunt has now left the franchise. Like, I assumed that there was going to be like a scene at the end where like they make some sort of final piece together, but no, like Helen Hunt like stops being in the movie after like 20 minutes
Yeah.
and never appears
Yep.
again.
It's so weird.
Uh,
It's kind of sad too, because it's like I really love their relationship in the first Trancers. I even really like their scenes in Trancers 1.5. Like I thought that was good, and would they do the same sort of thing? He goes back in time to sort of fix it with her because she's all pissed off and whatnot. I really, really did not want to see this story go this direction with them. I think that's such a bummer for the franchise and whatnot. And Helen Hunt, she was so good in Trancers 1 and 1.5. I wanted her in all of Trancers 2. Like, have her just be like the buddy cop that's going around trying to assist him on this. And they just kind of like pigeonholed her into nothing in 2 and 3. It's really, really sad.
yep.
Yeah, I think as far as like a write off, I didn't hate it.
It's the
It was
best they
fine.
could do,
Yeah.
and I think I
Well,
read.
I'm sure she probably just came back for like a weekend. It's like, hey, I will do. You got me for like 6 hours. Do what you need to do to tie up my story. And
Yeah,
so they did what they
I
could.
think Wikipedia says that Charles Band was kind of shocked she agreed to come back because she was a big star on Mad About You at that time. Like she kind of blew up. And good on Helen Hunt though to be like, yeah, she didn't have to come back for this. She was like, yeah, I'll show up, go ahead and wrap up my story the best you can, and I ain't gonna be in your little full moon movies going forward anymore. But cool that she did that.
Yeah.
Yep. So Helen Hunt's gone, so now it's just Jack Death running around with RJ, and like, it turns out Helen Hunt, like the last good deed she did was she hid Jack Death's prized car so that it wouldn't get repossessed, and so he's got his Corvette back, and so he and RJ just drive out to a random beach to talk about the transfer program, and she kind of lays out the program. Uh, there is a is it is his rank colonel. There's a military guy whose name is Daddy Mother,
Oh,
and it's just fucking weird.
Andrew Robinson from Hellraiser, by the way.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
Yep.
he even says at one point, "Come to Daddy," so as a callback. But yeah, it's like Colonel. I don't know what his rank is. I'm calling him Colonel. It's like Colonel Daddy Mother is his
Yep.
name,
oh,
and
so weird.
he is leading this transfer program. And it turns out that I guess Trancers started out as a Captain America-esque super soldier program, and so he's giving people injections to turn them into Trancers, which he can mind control. And there's just this group of military people that they want to be the best fighters possible, and so they're like, "Make me Trancers," and they answer to Colonel Daddy Mother, and RJ escaped.
There's
And
that
so,
weird sequence with the woman in the bed where
yeah,
she's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if she's supposed to be orgasming or something while I don't know what he's doing in that sequence to her, but I'm just like, what the fuck am I watching? This is
yeah.
very
So it's
weird.
like after the bar fight where one of the Trancers gets put down, like a woman trancer and a man trancer. Like I don't know what any of these people's names are. They go to Colonel Daddy Mother, and Colonel Daddy Mother tells the guy, like, give me your full report. And so he leaves, and he looks at the girl, and it's like, and Lieutenant what's her name is going to give me her oral report, and the next time we see them is like they're in bed together. And I don't know if he's like trying to get her to trance out while they're fucking, or if he's trying to like turn her on, which will trigger trancing, and she is
He's
supposed to
trying to get
fight
her
it
to
to show she can
control it.
control it.
Yeah, she's trying to
All
get her
right.
to control it because like the veins keep pulsating on her face and whatnot. And he keeps telling her like, you know, you got to learn to control and don't essentially trance out. She pulls a gun on him at one point. She's like, "I could kill you," but he's like, I'm training you how to keep control." And but it's weird. It's so
Yeah.
weird.
It's somehow
There's
like he. Sorry, go ahead, Warp.
no, there's a lot of like facial. It's very Scanners esque of like people trying
Yeah.
to mind control each other and then trying to resist the mind control, and it's just people making weird faces, and it's all a bit upsetting.
Yeah. And apparently, like Colonel Daddy Mother like gives him mental control over these people. Like it's never discussed. Like is he like psychic like Whistler it was in the first movie? It's just like going through the Trancers program like creates some sort of mental link to Colonel Daddy Mother. Anyways, Colonel Daddy Mother is the bad guy of this film, which is just fucking ridiculous to say. Uh, and so Jack Death and RJ are out on this beach. They're having a chat. RJ like lays out everything for him, and then a cop shows up and he's like, "Hey, you know, you're not supposed to be out on this beach. This is restricted territory." And RJ just executes the cop. And Jack Death is like, "What the fuck?" And RJ is like, "She's a phony. She's not really a cop. You can tell because she has nail polish on." It's like that's a fucking leap. But Jack Death just rolls with it. It's like, well, shit, I guess you're right. Yeah, yeah. Cops don't wear nail polish, so clearly this is like a secret agent. Um, I don't even remember how it happens, but they ultimately like get captured like very shortly after this, and so like Colonel Daddy Mother is like no one gets to leave the program, and so he wants to capture RJ and just force her to resume her Trancer training. And but now he's got Jack Death as well, and so he's like, I'm going to Jack Death says, you know, like transiently works on squids, meaning like the mentally weak. And Colonel Daddy Mother's like, no, it's gonna work on whoever I want it to work on. And so he starts like forcibly turning Jack Death into a trancer. Uh, so this is happening in like this secret underground military base, and we get just like, random scenes of shit going on in this place. Like there's a senator showing up that's like, oh, you know, prove to me that trancing works if you want to continue your government funding. There's this weird like subplot that ultimately ends up being completely fucking pointless, where like the main military guy who was working under Colonel Daddy Mother, like his little brother also wants to join the trancing program. And so we get scenes dedicated to this little brother character like signing his trancer program paperwork. And then so now like the little brother is going into transfer training. And then I'm pretty sure later on in the movie when Jack Death has been captured, Colonel Daddy Mother has the two of them fight, and the older brother rips the throat out of the younger brother. Like, was that the younger
Yeah.
brother that he killed?
I
Because
think
if
so.
that's if
Yeah,
if that's not the younger brother, then the younger brother just disappears and it isn't
no,
in the
I'm
movie
pretty sure
anymore.
that's the
Okay,
brother.
yeah, it's like so they have this character like they dedicate several minutes to this inconsequential character to show his path to becoming a trancer, and then they just kill him. And like it is just like he stops being important to the movie. Like I thought
There's
there
a,
was gonna I thought there was gonna be
sorry.
some sort of scene where it's like, haha, look at the mental control I have over this man. I can get him to kill his family if I want. And it's just nothing. It's just like he's dead now, and the movie moves on.
They write off Helen Hunt in the beginning. Understandable. She was not going to be available for the whole picture. Then there's just a lot of people who are not Yak Def taking up a lot of screen time here, and I was not interested in the slightest
No,
in any of these people.
no McNulty in this one, right? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
he's
Right?
dead.
There's like no
They
one
say
comes.
That,
in the
yeah.
future that McNulty got killed.
Yeah. So then you have that moment where Jack Death is kind of like sad that McNulty has died, and it's like another actor that refused to show up. Like Helen Hunt's a big star. She showed up to finish up, and whoever Art LaFleur was probably like, "Fuck this, I'm out. I'm not being a part of this." And that also kind of rubbed me the wrong way because McNulty was one of the coolest characters throughout this whole
Yeah,
thing, and it's like, nope. He got Newton Hicksed off screen, sort of. He's gone, and it's just like it's a bummer. That's
I'm trying to think like who are the returning characters in this because Hap doesn't show up either, so it's just Jack Death, 3 minutes
the
of Helen Hunt.
the lady who is sending them back, who's in
Yeah,
charge.
like
She's now on the
the
council now, I think, right?
right, the doctor character from the first two movies is back, and Alice, Jack Death's future wife, is back in this movie.
Yeah.
All played by the same people, so it's like that's some cool continuity they've got
Yeah.
going on there. But there's not many connections to the previous film. But anyways, Jack Death has been captured. He's trying to be forcibly turned into a trancer. RJ comes to the rescue, frees him. Together, they just start trying to escape this military base. They kill a bunch of trancers, and the whole time RJ is like trying to fight it. Like she is like resisting trancing out, but she knows that she's, ultimately like daddy mother is going to control her. And so she begs Jack Death to mercy kill her, and he does. And so now it's just Jack Death fighting everyone. Oh, Shark comes back. Shark is the name of the android with the fish heads. And so we learned that the first time Jack goes back to the future, they're like, "Oh yeah, we built these androids. Shark is the last one though, and he has limited power. So eventually his power source is going to run out." Why they chose to build their androids with like fish heads? Don't ask so many questions, guys.
So they can make a
It's
toy.
just,
Is there a toy of this? I'm gonna look it
I don't
up.
know. Shark's design felt to me like this was a prop they made for another movie that ultimately didn't come out.
Yeah, it's kind of like the fire trucks in the last one. When it's like you had access to this.
Yeah.
You wrote this in here because you had access to this.
Charles Band had access to a fish person costume and just threw it in Trancers 3. I don't know. But Shark comes back just out of nowhere and is like, "Hey, I was sent back in time to help you fight." And so they fight through all the Trancers. Shark's power runs out towards the end, and so now it's just Jack Death. But at this point, the only person left that's a bad guy is Colonel Daddy Mother. And so Colonel Daddy Mother is trying to mentally control Jack Death because like Jack Death went through like level 1 of the transfer program. And so Colonel Daddy Mother has some sort of mental control over Jack Death. And so the Colonel's like, "Put the gun in your mouth and pull the trigger." And Jack Death starts to do it, but he's able to resist. And so, well, Colonel Daddy Mother's like, "Well, even if I can't control you, I'll just kill you." And so Colonel Daddy Mother pulls out a gun and from like 3 feet away misses his shot. Like it just like he just like just barely like nicks Jack Death's shoulder, and Jack Death just shoots Colonel Daddy Mother dead. Like they are this far apart, and this military trained person misses his gunshot or chooses to shoot Jack Death like on the outer arm skin instead of in the head or in the heart or something. So Jack Death just kills the Colonel. Shark comes back online. It's like, "Let's go back to the future," and Jack Death goes back to the future, and now it's like the military commander that he met back when he first went to the future, plus the nurse character, plus his wife. They have become the new council. Apparently the future has been saved, and Jack Death is told, "We have more jobs for you. You are going to be working closely with Shark now." And there's a couple times where Jack Death breaks the fourth wall, and so he goes to Shark and he's like, "Hey, Shark, I think this could be the beginning of a beautiful." And then he looks at the camera and goes, "Ah, forget it." And that's how the movie ends. What the fuck? What the fuck happened? This movie's so fucking random.
It really is. I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself here. I feel like I've said this multiple times doing this show. I feel like there is a bit here in the beginning that's kind of interesting, and it lasts like, I don't know, I'll be generous to say like last 20 minutes I was reasonably entertained. I feel like the action is a little more better directed than the second one, and it's a little more kinetic. Like I was reasonably entertained. And it's just this stretch in the middle where I'm like, things are just happening. Like I don't know. There's that one scene where Colonel Daddy Mother, I feel bad even saying that out loud. He's he's like talking to one of his underlings or whatever, or no, it's like some government person who's like in his underground lair, and he's like, "Yes, you don't like that that they call me Colonel Daddy Mother. Yes, you don't like that, don't you?" And he's like, "No, I don't like that. That's disturbing." And he's like, "Yes, yes." I'm like, "What is happening?" Like, it's so strange. So yeah, I don't know. It was bad, but I thought it had some quality, not quality, but I was entertained.
This one's better than 2. I will give it that. I do think it's better than 2, but I was still bored through the majority of it. I still don't really give a shit about any of these characters. And as soon as like Helen Hunt exits the movie, I'm just like, I have real no interest because we've already established Jack Death as an asshole now, and so I don't really care to follow him. I don't care about RJ. I don't care about this military sort of weird trancer army. But to your point, Borb, I think you're correct. It's like, okay, you get Terminator vibes at the very beginning of it. You're like, okay, Trancers have taken over. What could possibly happen here? Is there going to be a cool story? No, there's no cool story at all. Andrew Robinson's kind of a creepy villain. I'll give it that. He's better than the villain in part 2, just because that scene with the girl in the bed is so weird. That's something that this one's got going for that 2 didn't. 2 wasn't weird. It was just boring. 3 is boring, but it's also weird and bizarre. It has strange shit in it that makes you like question your own life as to why you're watching something like this, and can I get myself all the way through it? So yeah, 3 is better than 2, but I don't know if that's saying much. I mean, it's kind of splitting hairs where it's like, all right, it's still bad, but at least it's if they're doing a trajectory is going down, down, down. It started to arc up just slightly higher with 3, but am I excited to watch part 4 after seeing this? No. Like I'm still kind of dreading what I can't even imagine what part 4 is like because I don't think I've seen 4, 5, or 6. I can't even imagine where this goes from here.
I've read the synopsis for 4, and I am excited for 4,
Okay,
but
don't
I'll
spoil it
talk
for
about
me
why in
then.
a
Yeah,
little bit.
don't spoil what 4 is going to be. But
No. Okay, well then I can't talk about what I was going to talk about, so we'll save that. Let me say, part 4 and 5, it looks like they take the story down a completely different, unexpected path. So I'm excited for
okay,
4, just because it seems like I don't know if it's going to be good, but it seems like it's going to be very different from the last couple movies.
okay. I mean that's something. All right. What did you think of part 3, Steve?
No, I agree. Like this movie is better than part 2 because it gave us back some of the stuff that we really liked from part 1 but lost in part 2. There was more future stuff. Um, Unfortunately, not a significant amount of Helen Hunt, which sucks. But we got more future stuff. Jack Death is back to looking like a detective rather than walking around in his best like Christmas sweater that he spent all of part 2 in. Um, as fucking weird as it is, like I love Shark's design. Like Shark was a cool part of the movie, even though he's only in it for 5 minutes. I wish he would have done more. Like it, yeah. This is better than part 2, while still not being very good in the slightest. Um, Again, movie sucks, but I'm excited for part 4 just because of how different it looks like it's going to be from part 2 and 3. But yeah, 2 and 3 together are just very, very forgettable.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a rough watch back to back. It just felt like disappointment after disappointment after disappointment for 2.5, 3 hours. Unfortunately,
And this movie is back down to like 73 minutes, and it
yeah,
still drags in the middle.
it does. It does. That's the thing. Like I think that Charles Band has like a cool concept of an idea, but just does not know how to fully execute into a feature length. Maybe he should just stick to doing short films. Maybe that's where Charles Band would really
Or maybe
rise.
he should take 2 of his normal movies and then like edit them into one with just the parts that actually move the storyline along.
Yeah, maybe. Like, could you edit Trancers 2 and 3 and make it a single movie? I
Probably.
mean, maybe. So yeah, folks, that's it. That's it for Full Moon Fridays this week on Outpost Unknown. We'll be back in a couple weeks where we're going to take a look at Trancers 4 and I'm not particularly looking forward to it, but Steve seems to be a little excited to see where they go with it.
I'm
So,
not saying it's good. I'm just saying it looks like it's going to be different.
Borp, let me ask you, if you had to
Mhm.
predict what Trancers 4 is going to be about, what would you
Uh,
predict?
I know what it's about. Unfortunately,
Oh, you already looked? Okay, I'm the only one that
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah,
looked. I haven't
yeah.
looked yet. So I'll be surprised, I guess, and we can talk. I guess okay, let me make a prediction then.
Yes.
If I was going to make Trancers 4, I'm trying to remember exactly how Trancers. So the end of Trancers 3, they've saved everything. There are no more Trancers. The army's gone. The future has been changed. Um, I would say that at some point in the next one, if we're going wild, Jack Death becomes a Trancer, and then the other characters have to figure out how to deal with Jack Death as like the ultimate Trancer. That's what I would want to see. I think that would be kind of interesting if
Could we, like, what if we? I think you can maybe infer what they do with 4 based on the subtitle. Could we give you? Would you be willing to hear the subtitle
Sure,
and then
yeah,
see how you think of it? All right, the subtitle is called Jack of Swords.
Jack of Swords. That would make me think they're going back to like the Middle Ages or something. Like we're doing a Army of Darkness stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing Army of Darkness. All right. I mean, I like Army of Darkness, but I guess. All right. So stay tuned in 2 weeks, folks, where we go back to the Middle Ages, and I guess Jack Death becomes he's going to kill Trancers like Ash killed Deadites back in the day. We'll see. Maybe that'd be cool. Trancers. Army of Darkness sort of crossover event where he encounters Bruce Campbell back in the day. Who knows? We'll see. But let us know, folks. Do you want us to keep covering these Trancers? We're going to do it anyway. But let us know
Yeah, we're doing it anyway.
if you want us to keep doing
By
it.
the time we see your comment, we'll have like 8 episodes in the can. We'll be long gone from this point.
Yeah, I think by the time we are recording these in July, and by the time we're done with the Trancers, we're scheduled into next year, I think, or at least through December. So we won't even really see your comments until 2025. But leave them anyway. That'll be fun to check out and see. So with that, thanks
We
everybody.
will send our consciousness back down the line.
Yeah.
To, like, read them in July of 2024.
There you go.
That's fucking stupid.
So thanks everybody. We'll be back in a couple weeks with